Um, Welcome, everyone. And I tell you what, Judith, I saw that twinkle in your eye. I love it. So welcome, everyone. And it's so great to have you all with us. As Cam said, it's super exciting. We're constantly tweaking this and growing. And so now we're streaming live on LinkedIn Live, YouTube, Facebook, and of course, Zoom. So it's great to have you all with us. Just as a reminder, if, as Cam said, you do have such a great opportunity to put in comments and ask our amazing guests questions. So do take that opportunity up, as I know many of you do. And if you're streaming in from the other platforms, Cam will be watching if you've got any questions as well, and we'll make sure they get answered. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Alex Tullio. I'm the CEO of Financial Executive Women. You may have just met and heard from our amazing founder, Judith Beck, as well. And we are super proud of this organisation and this community. We are a membership organisation, all for the positive progression of women in financial and professional services. We do a lot of great work around building really amazing networks, support networks, communities, mentoring, and a heap of other great stuff. And this is just one of those things that we do for you and with you. So welcome if you're new. We're so pleased to have you here. To our members and regulars, as always, thank you so much for giving us nearly an hour of your time. We don't take it lightly. There's lots that you could be doing, and there's lots of online content. So thank you very much for choosing to spend it with us. As I say every time, please do share this. We started this probably 14 weeks ago now. Here we are, Melbourne. We're in lockdown, version 2. But we started this to really be present and to show leadership and build a community. And I just feel like now more than ever, mental health connection, having a group of people that you can really connect with is so important. And that's what we've been building. This is free to all employees of our amazing corporate partners. And as I always say, if you know someone who would benefit from being part of this, and they're not at one of our corporate partners, invite them anyway. We love to have everyone here as part of this group. And as I always say, thank you to our corporate partners. You are amazing, and we love working with you and having you as part of this exciting community. So Cam, you beat me to it, but Judith and I do have something that we want to say today. And Judith, I'm going to give you the mic to go ahead with that.
Okay, well, it's a very sad day and exciting day at the same time, and probably very appropriate that we have Fee speaking today about evolution. Anna Ciasias, who all of you know and love, who is our head of marketing operations with Few, and she's been with us for over 4 years. She is sadly going to be leaving us to take up an exciting opportunity back into large corporate with one of our corporate partners, and to further enhance her career. We can't say at this stage where, because it's still confidential, but it's all very exciting. And we're really excited for her. You know, one of the things about Few is that we promote the concept of really looking at what your next opportunity is, and leaving one organization to go to another organization for a better opportunity, and is a positive thing. And so, you know, Anna has been such an important part of Few, and has really been, you know, my right-hand person all this time, who I've really relied on so much over the years, and I'm going to just totally miss her. But once Few, always Few. So I can't wait to see all the things that Anna's going to do in her career. And, you know, I would say that I'm going to miss her, but I'm going to be calling you, Anna, like every other day, and texting you. So I'm not going to miss you, because you won't be able to, you can run, but you can't hide. So we just thank you so much for everything that you've done for Few and all the hard work. And, you know, we've had such a fantastic time, and I can't think of a better person to share this journey with for the last 4 years. And like I said, it's not over. And, you know, you're going to do such amazing things. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything.
Beautiful words. Anna, would you like to say something?
I would, and I'm already almost crying, which was really not the plan. So good one, Judith. I just, you know, it's hard to believe that it's it's 4 years, and it's been what a ride, and all the things we've achieved, Judith, and 5 conferences we did. We pulled it off, just a small team, 5 conferences in 1 year. We've grown all of the corporate partnership base, and I just feel a great sense of pride for everything that we've achieved together. And for all the members out there, watching your journey, watching you contribute more as you've come to all of our circle sessions. I just loved being a part of that. And, I actually am really looking forward to the conference next year and being a delegate and sitting in one of the front rows and not being behind the scenes and stressing out and making sure everyone's shown up and all the speakers are ready to go. So just really excited for FEW 2.0, and I wish every single person who's part of the new FEW team every success, and I will be watching from the sidelines cheering on. So it's been a great highlight of my career, and it's years that I will cherish in my career. So thank you.
Anna, so well said, and Judith as well. And look, for my 2 cents worth, all I can say is the same. I've been on the advisory board before this role for over 7 years. Anna, you're such a big part of this. And I know you and I were chatting and you were saying it's really bittersweet. And Judith, you said as well, it's so sad. Like, I feel it's the end of an era, but the start of something really exciting, and you're going to be part of this community. So it won't just be Judith that's texting you. You will definitely be part of this community in some way, shape or form. And I think it's exciting for what's next for you. And obviously you'll keep being part of a really important part of this organisation. So, and you've got our youngest ever Few Good Men in Alexander. So he's going to come up through the ranks as well. So this is not a goodbye. This is a just, wow, what's next for you? And we'll see you. And like I said, we might even comp you a ticket to the conference. I don't know, Judith. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Not what you know, it's who you know.
You are a lifetime member. So look, and we all look forward to the day when we can in person have a champagne together. So that will happen as well. So thank you everyone for indulging us, but it is really important to celebrate amazing team members and culture, and to see people go to the next phase of their journey, which is, as Judith said, this is what FEW is all about. So Anna, amazing, you'll be missed, but you'll still be here. So I'll still hear Alexander's toys in the background, and that song that gets stuck in my head every time. It's that one toy. But so we will miss you, but we still look forward to very much being part of your journey going forward. So good, and congratulations to you. So Cam, thanks for that. We've got heaps coming up as always. We've got a fantastic masterclass tomorrow with Anna Glynn, and many of you would have heard from Anna yesterday, I think it was, about her masterclass tomorrow, and very timely as always. She's going to be talking about all things resilience during uncertainty, so it's not too late to register for that. We've got great numbers for that tomorrow, so you can just click on the link, which I'm sure Cam will put in the chat, and make sure you go to that. And as we always say, this is part of your membership for our members, so take advantage. And for those of you who aren't yet members, we do want you to experience the amazingness that is this organisation for yourself. So we'd like to give you an opportunity to go to Anna's masterclass tomorrow, even if you're not a member, to experience one with us. And of course, Judith, you and I have our circle events, which is our confidential group mentoring on Monday. And also for those not yet members, please feel free to come and join Judith and I and our members to experience that for yourselves. And of course, members, don't forget that is part of your membership. So make sure you register on the link that Cam's put in. So without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce today's guest, Ms. FEW Mercer. So those of you who don't yet know FEW, let me just introduce her. So FEW is a governance and reinvention specialist, a disruptive innovator and successful entrepreneur with 30 years leadership experience in the health, not-for-profit and business sectors. She's the founding director of the award-winning Governance Evaluator, Australia's preeminent cloud-based platform for board and council governance evaluation and capability building requirements. The platform focuses on providing amazing governance data insights and expert supports for directors, boards and executives in the health, aged care, independent schools, local government, NFP and government sectors. Fee is a transformational leader in her current and past chair and director roles, as well as her roles as founding director, CEO, and executive manager. She's completed entrepreneurship, innovation, and venture capital studies, Haas Business School at Berkeley in Silicon Valley, California, and she's also engaged in the Runway Geelong and other accelerators, coaching and mentoring programs for governance in startup businesses. Wow, Fee, welcome. Let's get rid of this slide. Good to see you. Mute. You just need to take yourself off mute. I love it when other people do this because I still do that.
Thank you. It's so lovely to be here, Alex. And thank you, Judith, for your lovely welcome as well. And my huge congratulations for this incredibly valuable program. It's extraordinary. So well done.
Oh, thank you. It's great to have you here. And as I always like to say, it's one thing to read a formal bio, but it's a completely different story to hear from our guests a bit about your journey. And I know we were talking just before and you said, oh, well, my journey, personal or business. And we're like, all. Because, you know, we love to hear everything, no holds barred here. So, but what, in all seriousness, like what is the journey for you that's led you to where you are now? You know, a successful entrepreneur with all the great work that you've done and are doing. What's been your pathway to that?
Well, thank you for asking. And actually, you're right. It does matter about people's personal and professional life because they're always intertwined. So for me, I grew up in rural Victoria as a country girl. And I think country is the perfect playground to learn to be an innovator. And all through my life, I can remember as a child always seeing opportunities, always starting little businesses like rearing calves of all the local dairy farmers, and just any opportunity I had to turn something into something positive. Fast track forward, I am what we officially call third time round. So both my hubby and I are third time round, and I have the privilege in my life of having 6 children. 2 are my own children who I love and adore, and my plan is to replace myself with someone better, and I'm doing an awesome job of that. But I also have 4 beautiful stepchildren. I always wanted 6 children, and this is how I got them. I have 8 grandchildren, and I experience every day that privilege of being part of a community that helped to bring up amazing people. And so I guess my personal life to get to that point has taught me a lot about change. And some of that change has been designed and some of it has been completely thrown upon me. And I guess from a professional perspective, where did my real kind of lights turn on for being innovative and change? It was when I was a young 30-year-old CEO of a regional health service. And I don't think you could have a better playing ground for learning about change, learning about innovation. I was married to my then first hubby, who was a farmer. And believe it or not, those combination of things developed a real passion in me for governance. And for the last 30 years, that has been my guiding star about where I am in my business now. Back then, we actually were in the era, and I don't know if anyone will remember this, of Jeff Kennett. And Jeff actually closed a lot of organisations. And I was then the president of the local kindergarten, running the local hospital, and I joined everybody in the fight against him. And in actual fact, learnt afterwards that we had no idea from a governance perspective what we were doing. And we should have actually taken it on board, started to evolve with that change and taken it seriously. And I learnt that after that you could actually change. We changed our health service to be more of a community service, and we eventually went on to win awards. We innovated on all sorts of levels. But it was that brutal change, you know, overnight, a staff of 40 all lost their jobs, and 5 of us were standing there, still had a job, and you had all of those things of survivor guilt and everything else. Took a long time to bring the community along with us, but I learnt the hard way that at a governing level, we should have seen that coming. We should have started the change process long before that. So like, I guess a lot of people, my introduction to change and why I'm where I am now was because of some big events.
And so I know we were talking about, and it's very timely, isn't it? We were talking about this concept of reinvention just with recent, the last 3 or 4 months or whatever it's been as well. And then, of course, we've talked about so many things, which I'd love to unpack with you now. But so what have more recently with your business? Tell us a bit about, so everyone understands that the amazing business that you now run and are a founder of, and also how, again, this concept of reinvention and change, what's that actually? How's that impacted you, and how have you reinvented again?
So I guess the first thing I want to say, Alex, and to everybody else, and by the way, everyone, I'm open to questions. Just hit me with anything you want to hear about. But I guess the biggest thing that I want to say about change and reinventing is that it usually happens 2 ways. The first way is by design. And that's all about pivoting and all about planning and all of those sorts of things. And there are some key things that you need to take on board to be able to do that quite well. But the second kind of change is one that's jumped on you. It's just dropped out of nowhere. It's often environmental, it's often big, and right now we're all experiencing a classic example of that, which is in COVID-19. And I guess one of the things that I want to share with you all is that not only have I developed a passion for governance through my experience in rural health, I practice good governance myself. So I now, in my company, have my own little advisory board, and we partner with the tech group to provide my advisory board with a chair. And he gave us some really good advice about how to cope with COVID-19. And he talked about it like the wartime. And I don't want anyone to be spooked or horrified by that. But in wartime, we learned a lot of really good things that we can apply to now. One of them, and the most important one, is to actually be present. Because one of the things that disappears in COVID-19, or it disappears in wartime or in crisis, is the ability to think too far forward. And so for me, in my business, being present means that we've gone right back to doing things like having a daily stand-up. Sometimes we can't even keep a track of things after lunchtime, so we might even catch up again at lunchtime. And being present means that you go on the flow with the things that are happening. You're more able to sort of get in that dance or that rhythm of what's happening and be more effective. He also talked about how there's this fog of truth, and try not to get too caught up in that. It's easy to jump at all sorts of different things that aren't true. And he also talked about when you're in times like these, it's really important to become obsessed with your customers and learn about what's happening for them, and become obsessed with your staff as well, if you have any staff on your team. So if you apply that to my business, we have gone into lockdown like everyone else. We haven't been in our office for since March. But through our obsession with our customers, we have learned what they want from us now versus what we thought they wanted for the last 7 years.
And did you find it just on that obsessed with the customers? I think this is really great advice. So did you find that through that process, sorry, of course the dogs bark, did you find through that process, was what they're now asking and needing from you fees, is that different to what you've been delivering for the last few years? Like what had changed with that feedback?
Look, I guess the first thing is when I started following on from my experience at the health service, I discovered that at a governance level, we just didn't know what we were doing. And I thought, how the hell can we get to do that better? And it turned out to be all about access to what we needed to be the best we could. So that's why in 2013, instead of just being a consultant and going around and supporting boards and organisations, I actually thought people get access through things being online and doing things in a much more affordable and simpler way. I don't know if anyone understands or knows much about governance, but it was hijacked quite a few years ago by quite a few people and given some very bad big language around it that made everyone think they didn't understand it. But in actual fact, it's a simple concept of the things you need to help you be wise and responsible. And I worked out you could actually put that stuff online. And so we've kind of been working quite well with that. But what happened when we moved into COVID was our clients who weren't so experienced with being online have suddenly become very experienced with being online. So their appetite for online things is increased. But the flip side of that, because we're obsessed with them, is that they're really struggling to make decisions and they're really struggling to justify spending any money. So the sorts of things we did to pivot a bit was, instead of going, okay, this is our base product and here is the chips with that, you know, we have our base product, which is the board evaluating itself. The chips with that is the director doing a skills matrix and so on and so on, that classic kind of model. People were saying, I can't make a decision, I'm too stressed. And so we actually we took a huge decision and we put everything into one. All you have to do is buy one thing from us and you get the lot.
Yeah.
And we also we dropped our price by 65%, which meant that there wasn't any fear in making that decision, still got that enormous value. And we put ourselves into the scale by selling a lot of our product now at a low price.
So you've really, I mean, and what you're saying here is you're saying, you know what, we really got into what were the challenges for our customers.
Yep.
And you basically, you've removed barriers and actually made it easier for them to make a decision. Because I think, and as we've talked about, so our fantastic community here, you know, is across financial and professional services.
Yes.
So all of us in different ways, we've got teams, we're thinking about our own, you know, mental state, mindset. We've got customers and how we support them. So I think this is super valuable. Just really getting back to those basics of, you know, understanding what your customers are going through and what your team's going through. So you mentioned team before. So how what's changed in terms of your team and the dynamic with your team?
Well, I guess the thing is, with the team, one of the most important things is to actually become obsessed with how they're going. And we used to just do stand-up, being a tech company, once on Monday, and we'd all stand up around in a big team and we'd all, you know, we looked just like in the movies. We'd all be talking and drawing everything all over the boards and we were as cool as you could be. But in actual fact, what happened when we went into lockdown and when we all have to work from home was that we needed to do stand-up every morning. And we needed to just be about the day, because all of a sudden people can't think any further down the track than that day. And we basically joined hands and did everything together. We'd work on and deliver a proposal together. We would, you know, we actually really meld in together. And now we've kind of started stretching back out again. But the team itself really valued that regular touch-ins, and they also value extreme transparency. So if you talk about good governance, and good governance being transparency to your community and everything, it's about the business being transparent to the team, and right from financials right through to everything. And they needed to hear it, warts and all. And that had a very good impact on them as well. The other thing that you've got to be really in touch with your values, and you mustn't let any of those slide out the door. So I still kept those important things going, like kept our advisory board meetings going, invite each of different members of the team to present to the advisory board, so they felt good about what they were doing, even if there was not an awful lot to tell. You know, we haven't had any sales for 3 months, and you know, gulp. But there is a way of telling that. In other words, what have we learnt from that? What have we picked up? What can we do better? So I guess one of the biggest things is with your team, it's also about drawing on past things for them. So we looked at what happened in the 1918 lockdown from Spanish flu. And would you believe, I read a poem to them and they thought somebody from another business who was going through this lockdown right now had written it. In actual fact, it was from 1918.
Oh,
exactly the same things.
That's fascinating. Can you share with us who that was? What's that poem? Can you remember?
What I'll do, Alex, is I'll send it to you and you can send it to everybody who's come today, which is fantastic. Also, things like you've got to talk to your staff about all the different Qs. So nowadays we've got IQ, we've got EQ, but we've got AQ, and AQ is adaptability intelligence. And adaptability intelligence comes from understanding that it's okay to fail. It's okay to make a mistake. You've got to help the staff know 80% is near enough, is good enough. And also you've got to talk to them about it's not the strongest and the most intelligent who will survive. It is those who are the most adaptable to change.
There is so much great wisdom there, and there's a couple of questions coming through.
Go for it.
As well.
Yeah.
But especially I just love what you're talking. I know all of you. We get lots of questions about how much can you share and how often, and I think what you're bringing everyone back to is the importance of, even if it's not pretty, it's better, because in the absence of knowing actually what's happening, people make up all sorts of stories, right? So that's super important, and I love what you're saying is the cadence, more communication, the daily stand-ups, keeping them focused, still having advisory board meetings, even though you feel like that could easily fall off. So there, again, the simple but not necessarily easy things to keep doing. So first of all, Bryony, thanks. Good to see you. Even though I can't see you, Bryony, put your video on.
I can't see Bryony either. See some gorgeous pictures.
Yes, Bryony says, I'm a huge fan of governance as well, but I found it can be a struggle to get buy-in from others. Hey, Bryony. So the question is, it can be a struggle to get buy-in from others around governance fee. What's a way to start making the concept of governance feel real and practical, and like you said before, not some kind of old big thing that's too hard to understand, but in the day-to-day for a business?
Well, it's interesting because Bryony, I find in my world, my staff are my first line of consumers. And, like I've got a 22-year-old on my staff who's a business analyst specialist, because our whole business is in the world of data that boards produce from doing our evaluations. And so how do you get someone like that obsessed with governance? You help them understand that governance relates to everything that's near and dear to our heart. Anything that's near and dear to your heart, like your bank, your school, your childcare centre, or whatever, there are principles around the way they should be run so that the people who go there are safe, our money is safe, things like that are safe. So how I bring people on board with governance is an experiential thing. They actually start to understand that it's first and foremost not just part of those great big BHP organisations. It is a fundamental principle. And I talk to my team about governance being better than religion, because if you actually treat each other in the way that good governance suggests, it's actually the kindest and most respectful way to treat people. So you've got to actually help people understand that governance is a fundamental principle that at our peril do we let go of. And I find that from your juniorest member of your team right through to the most senior, everybody loves to have a purpose and a principle like that. But woe betide me if I don't role model it and practice it.
Absolutely.
Then going out to our customers, my team have no trouble in talking about it and proudly showing them the data that relates to it. But in helping people outside, our customers, understand governance better, Alex, it's about simplifying it. It is about taking away those ridiculously large words. And I'll tell you a secret. When I started this part of my company, I got my own little board together and I thought all my customers said, what we want Fee is an online governance education platform. Well, guess what? After a year of implementing one, They didn't want that. If you listen acutely and be prepared to fail, what you hear is, nice one, Fee, but what I really want is to do evaluation to understand what is the framework within which I'm meant to be working and which bits of that framework am I failing at the moment. Then I'll choose my education and stuff. And so then I started again and rebuilt this platform. And it's that evaluation piece that helps engage people, Bryony, in the governance, as opposed to the old-fashioned belief that sitting there educating people does. It's quite interesting. I was so surprised when I discovered that. Also nearly bloody well broke.
It's a lesson you'll never
what a bummer.
say. Well, what a bummer. But again, so much, there's so much there, isn't there? Because the surface answer is so rarely the real answer. And it is, it's you've got to keep, as you said, listen acutely and keep asking questions of all your stakeholders. And none of this is easy. And you're right, there are plenty of opportunities to get that wrong. So also, and Sheena, I can see you there. Hello. Would you like to ask your question, or do you want me to ask it for you?
Where's Sheena? Oh, there's Sheena. Hi, Sheena.
I can jump in. So you were talking about transparency before. So obviously that made a lot of changes within your company and how you did your stand up daily and things like that. Did you also have that same kind of transparency, exposing the changes that you were making and the issues your company was facing with your clients? Did you have that same kind of thing, or did you kind of go, you know what, this is our changes, we're going to make them and then release them?
No. With our customers, we were very honest about the fact that we were still here and functioning, and we shared with each of them individually. So when we did our newsletters and things, we still did all the interesting things, still invited them to free webinars and all that sort of stuff. But when we spoke to them individually, we spoke to them about first of all, how are you going? And secondly, therefore we won't be working with you, and we're working hard to stay, in the business. I think our clients wanted to know that we were going to stay afloat because they had already invested in our platform, and whether or not they re-registered would be based on how they come out of this. And they want to know that you're still there and you're still afloat and you're still in one piece. But they also love that you're listening to their pain, so that when they came out of the first real lockdown, and I might tell you, everybody, I work predominantly with health, aged care, independent schools. So who else was more harshly hit by corona than these guys? So they need the assurance that you're there, that you have done what you need to do to stay afloat for them for when they come out. And that's something you tell them on a personal basis, and you keep your professional things going. But they do love seeing, this is the biggest thing I've learned, and we have hundreds of boards on our platform, they do love seeing evidence that you listen to them. Because nothing pisses people off more than when you go around, hat in hand, and go, please tell me what's happening, blah, blah, blah. But if you don't come back to them with the feedback of how you've changed based on their feedback, and then you show them, which is the versions of what we're doing that I told you about before, you lose their trust and you lose their desire to stay with you.
And I think, Fee, that's super important, because it's not actually about having to take on every suggestion, because I mean that you can't do that. You can't. It's that whole thing. You can't please everyone.
No, you can't.
But I think what you're saying there is really important, because, and not just in corporate, in any bit, it's very easy to ask for someone's opinion and then forget in the rush to come back and say, look, even if you haven't implemented or something, give them context of why. And I find that, this is the point you're making, is that even if you haven't taken a suggestion, but being able to communicate back that you've heard it, you've processed it, they might not agree, but you've still communicated that back. And
Absolutely.
I think that goes a long way, doesn't it?
It does. And same with your team, because they are trying just as hard as you, and your board is too, to get you through this. So you've got to implement some of their ideas, and you've got to give them credit for it at every level, including to your customers. because that's about the only prize that people are getting at the moment. When we're in times like these, you know, it's about being, that notion of being present is all about the gifts you can give. And let me tell you, they are not just continually a bunch of flowers or a smelly candle. They are genuinely hand on heart, letting other people be just as famous in change as you are.
So good.
That's really important.
It is
And
really important.
yeah. And the other thing that really helps Alex in change and everybody else, and something I've learned along the way, and being as old as I am, I feel really comfortable to talk about this now. But change is also what you have to learn the really good skill of letting go of things. So for example, on a big personal level, you know, change of getting divorced, the change of your partner committing suicide, all things like that. In order to start living again, you have got to use a combination of things to help you let go, because it's not about being the fittest, strongest person going into the future. It's about the person who can let go in an integrity and charming way of the past and take with you proudly what you need to take with you into the future, but leave behind what you have to leave behind. So one of the biggest things is that you can't just do that on one level. You've got to have a combination of spiritual, medical, health, the whole bit. At your peril, do you overlook your spiritual side in change? And if you don't nurture it and continually build it and continually listen to it, you are dead in the water. And that part of change, touching base with your spiritual side, enables you to let go of one piece of the past in order to be good at change. The second piece, of course, you know, if it's really traumatic, is medical. Don't do one or the other, do both, because at your peril do you not understand that there is a medical side of things. And then, of course, there is the physical, keep fit, do all that sort of thing. And one of the things that I think makes you really good at reinvigorating or changing or coping with failure is being very good at either on a very big scale or on a little day-to-day scale of a little failed project of letting go. And you've got to help your team to let go too. Because you can't pivot quickly and you can't move out of things quickly. And that's a really strong piece of advice I want to give you all. And unfortunately, I've worked in too many businesses where the focus has been on moving forward, but a significant part of your focus needs to be incredibly good at letting things go. And I mean genuinely, no going into a meeting going, of course, we're fine about this, going out into the loo or the tea room and bitching your head off. That doesn't work. It's actually genuinely hand on heart doing this.
And no one can do that for you, right? I mean,
no, that's the tough bit.
That's the tough bit. I'm so glad that you've introduced this because you and it's this constant journey, isn't it? I mean, we talk on this show, we've talked and we've had all sorts of leaders from backgrounds and all sorts of things. And invariably we talk about things like impostor syndrome and self-doubt so this is the thing, again, it doesn't matter who you are. And I love that you're talking about the importance of letting go, because it's bloody hard.
It's really hard.
It's all this internal work, isn't it, that you've got it, because it's ego and it's, you know, all these things that we carry that we don't even realize until you really start to get in touch with all that. So I love that you've brought that up. I want you to let's talk a bit about, so, you know, we were talking a lot about change and reinvention. And I know when you and I were chatting pre this, you were saying, you know, at any stage, what was your saying? You said at any age and any stage, reinvention. And I'd love you to chat a bit more about that, because I know, again, a lot of our community, it's interesting, isn't it? So where we are in the world at the moment with everything that's happening, one of the big themes from this community across financial services that we've certainly heard is that a lot of our members are really feeling like they're at this crossroads or at this real reflection point. across life, not just job, but life. And is this what I want to do? And is this all there is? And do I want to go back to like all these questions that I feel like a lot of people are, grappling with. So it'd be good just to talk to you about, if people feel like maybe, can they still reinvent? Are they stuck?
Yeah, I think in Australia we've done ourselves a real disservice, and the first disservice was all thinking from the moment we're born, by the time we're 60, particularly as women, we're going to have a superannuation of this amount, and we're going to all retire, and we're going to live this way. And so we've kind of created all these ages and stages that we just kind of, I don't know, fall into, bob along. And I am of the firm belief that there's a real arrogance around thinking you, as long as you're alive, you shouldn't have to continually keep relevant. Keep up to date with things. Don't be afraid. You can't keep up to date with everything, and you can't be an expert at everything. But on what planet is it okay not to keep up with things, not to actually keep in touch with how things are changing and what's going on? And I think that from that, I think if you're questioning what are you meant to do now and how can you reinvent, I think that it's the healthiest thing, and you should get bloody excited that you're still alive enough to think like that. When people in Ford in Geelong said to me, Christ, what am I going to do? I was in that job 35 years. Well, lucky you, because very few people have the privilege of being in something for 35 years. So what is wrong with thinking you want to change? To be perfectly honest, let's flip that on its head. Why don't you think you want to change? And it's part of the way of even letting our brain go on a holiday. You should scan around and look around. Sometimes you mightn't even change, but it's a really normal, healthy thing to do. And if you don't be scared of it, and if you don't push away from it, then it should be a lovely, inquisitive and kind of healthy part of how we are. Now, there's a couple of things, though, I think are good to caution people about, Alex, with this. And that is some of the things that I've learned. So basically, yes, you might think at the latter stage of my career, I've been in finance for a long time, and I've got a great idea and I want to start something new. Well, girls and boys, at your peril, do you think that just a great idea is going to be the famous bit? The toughest thing I've learned since 2013 is that the definition of innovation, the true definition of innovation, is the commercialization of a good idea. It unfortunately isn't just a good idea. So one of the things that I really caution, Alex, with people that I talk to and work with, unless of course the change is by crisis, is that you actually do need to plan. And as I went through my change, my revolution, that in 2013 I decided everything I did as a consultant in the good old-fashioned world of governance, I could take online against everybody's better advice and so on. I actually know that planning is crucial. And when I talk about planning, I'm talking about simple. I'm talking about, you got 100% of time in your day, everybody. You need to write down 5 headings, and you need to say what percentage of my time goes into each of those headings and how am I going to transition. So my headings were, I've actually got them written down just in case you ask me this question: family, community, career. And career is all about brownie points and your training and everything else. Cash and investments. Seriously, guys, those things matter. And when you go into change and you want to do something new, or you've got a great idea that's going to change the world, let me tell you, from coaching startups and being a startup, you do need to plan. And you've got to understand with your family, what percentage of your 100% do you have to spend on them? What percentage from a mental health perspective do you need to spend on community, your fitness, your health, your spirituality? And what percentage do you need to spend on your actual career, which is your brownie points? Now, you might say a 40 or 50-year-old executive, I've got a great idea about a company I'd like to start. But what are some of the things you need to get in place to even have enough credibility to take something like that out there? You've got to think about that. And you also got to think about your cash flow. So I was telling Alex the other day that with my cash flow, I still had to be a consultant. I still had to, after spending all day developing my platform and everything else, I still had to jump on a plane to Sydney when you used to be able to, and go and do that consultancy piece. And my cash flow was a curve. And after 3 years, the curve met, and I finally started being able to live off the platform. And I was able to, I proudly say to people, I'm sorry, I don't do that anymore. But unless you manage that plan in a transitionary way, it's really difficult. If, of course, you're flipped into change, that has to happen really quickly. You do have to manage your own mental pieces of this, and that's that combination that I told you before of your spirit and health, medical and physical. And I think for those who have been flipped out of the workforce and are looking for something else to do, it's a really good time to actually get a proper coach or a proper person to design this with. But please don't think it's bad. And the other thing about being flipped into change, the first crisis in your head you have to deal with is, this is so bloody inconvenient. I can remember when my second partner committed suicide, and I thought, I'd been through everything in my first divorce. I had to change jobs. I decided to move up and be in this part of the world, and I had a fantastic job. And I thought that I didn't need to use all my change skills anymore. And I can remember the biggest change that I was confronted with was this is so inconvenient. This is so not, no.
Yeah.
But you actually just have to start working through that and drawing in those skills again of being able to let go and move on. Although I'll tell you something really funny. One of my best friends said they were looking to change, but to change their hubby. And they said, and they were talking about inconvenience. They said, yeah, I can't leave this weekend because I've got a really good dinner party happening. So that's the worst side of inconvenience that you could possibly imagine. But anyway, so yeah, it's just those little struggles you have to cope with.
Fee, this has gone so good. It's gone so fast. I feel like we could keep talking for hours, and we normally do. But thank you so much for today, and thank you obviously to our beautiful community for tuning in and asking questions. But Fee, so much great wisdom and advice about reinvention, business, communication. I love how you said, treat your staff like the first line of your consumers.
They are. They're really important.
They're so important. And just being present and learning to let go. There are so many words of wisdom there. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. We so appreciate it. And to everyone, thanks again for joining us. If you haven't joined, do check out, Cam's put the link again in the chat as well. So please do come and try one of our events on us, and we'd love to have you as part of this community. Thanks, everyone. Have a brilliant day, and we'll see you back again for our masterclass tomorrow at 12 with Anna Glynn, all about resilience and positive psychology. See you then.
Thanks Ellie. Thank you.